Good afternoon, dear Stitchers. It's Judy Whitman with JBW Designs, and I want to welcome you back to Flosstube number 34. As always, it takes a while to set everything up. Things are a little precarious over here. It's kind of like a house of cards, so I'm hoping that nothing collapses because I could be underneath all of it. But I have so much to show you today, so I'm very excited because I'm going to be revealing all of the new designs that I'm releasing at the Nashville market. Before I start telling you about those, I want to address several comments that were made in regards to the last video. And as always, I want to thank you for watching. You have so many choices, and I'm so appreciative of the time that you take not only to watch, but to make comments. As you know, I love reading those. Let's see. I got a darling note from Susan, and this was so cute because I think I sent her a prize or she ordered it. I can't remember which one, but she said it arrived on Friday, January 28th, which was National Have Fun at Work Day. I had more fun at home opening my mail from you, which I thought was so sweet. And then I also got a darling Valentine's Day card from Sue D, which I thought was just adorable. It could be inspiration, who knows, for heart designs in the future. And then I got a note, and this is in regards to our topic about museums. I brought that up a couple weeks ago because I want to make a master list of as many museums as you and I can find together here in the US that feature samplers, so that if any of us are out traveling, we might have a chance to go and visit them. And so I've started a list. I haven't typed it up yet, but once I feel like I've got a nice long list to share with you, I will type it up and we'll put it on the website. So let's see, Cynthia M. wrote, and she asked me if I'd added Winter Tour to the museums, and I hadn't, which is a fabulous museum. And she said you used to be able to arrange behind the scene tours to see textile items. So that would be wonderful if you were able to do that. And then she talked to me, which I brought up last week, about the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation museums. And my question was the DeWitt and the Folk Art one museum or two? And she said now that they are being joined in the same building, and they're going to be referred to as the Art Museums of Colonial Williamsburg. And they are undergoing a major renovation. So again, I think I'd call first before I went to see if there was anything open. The DAR also has a collection of samplers, which you can view online. And then, let's see, someone else wrote, and I forgot, excuse me, I'm sorry to write this down, but she suggested Pilgrim Hall in Plymouth, Mass., and they have the oldest sampler, the Laura Standish sampler, on display, which I believe was late 1600s. And her father, of course, was Miles Standish. So that would be fabulous to see also. Let's see what other questions I want to respond to. First of all, I talked a lot in my last two videos. My tongue is very twisted today. I have to get myself together here to talk to you. I talked in the last two videos about the designing process. And I kind of went through one set of steps, and then last time I expanded on that. And I got so many nice comments. So many people were so appreciative. I think some people feel like designers are hiding that information. As I said, there are no guidebooks on how to be a designer, but I really appreciated all your kind notes and your thank yous for my doing that. And as always, ask questions. I am happy to answer them. One of the gals that wrote, Kimberly, is a business and marketing teacher. And I thought, oh, wow, what a compliment, because I have not taken any business or marketing classes. I think a lot of us are just self-taught. This was a cute comment too. We talked about the Olympics, and Mary Jo wrote and said she was stitching like an Olympian. and she had all these sports afterwards, so I thought that was cute. I don't know about you, but I too am watching all of the Olympic events, which is kind of funny because I realize that never in my lifetime would I ever be able to compete in one of them, but they're fun to watch, aren't they? Katrina asked, do you normally print each phase of a design and why? So in my, I think 2 videos back, when I was showing you the progression of a design, I showed you that I printed out each stage as I went along. And I don't do that just for you to see, I do it for myself. Because after I print it out, I'm able to look at it and evaluate it and decide what needs to be changed or improved upon and where I'm going next with that design. So I definitely always print out each phase of the design along the way. And then Christy wrote and said, I've forgotten, I think she was in real estate perhaps, and she said how difficult it is to establish a brand and establish a look. And I do agree with that. I think it probably takes a long time. And my process of becoming a designer, someone asked, did you just start out designing? No, I started out stitching. I did needlepoint, cross stitch, of course, both. And it was a long progression before I decided to actually kind of establish a company. So in another video, I will talk to you about all of those steps. I have so much to cover today that I feel like I want to show you stitching today, and then another time we'll address kind of the beginnings of what I do. We're getting ready right now for the Nashville market. And let me take a quick sip of water again. And many of you know about this already. This is a market that is actually held in Franklin, Tennessee, and it's held at an Embassy Suites hotel. And it's quite exciting to be at the hotel and to see all the exhibitors, because the exhibitors take up, I think, 4 or 5 floors of the hotel. And if you've ever been in an Embassy Suites, you know that there's that big lobby that goes all the way to the ceiling. Well, each exhibitor, and there's a railing that goes around the outside in front of the rooms. So each exhibitor puts a banner over the railing to identify where she is, and it's fun to stand on the lower level and look up and around and see all the designers and companies that are there exhibiting. This is open for shop owners. So it's a wholesale trade show, and which means that the shop owners are coming into our rooms. And if you can picture this, an Embassy Suite room has a front living room and then the back bedroom. And I'll tell you what, those rooms aren't very big. So we do a lot of furniture moving. We've learned how to move the couches, the desks, the chairs, everything, so that we can make more room in the center of our display, so that there's room for the shop owners to come in and look at what we have. A lot of the shop owners have their stock in the back room. I kind of do both, some in the front and some in the back. So the shop owners are coming in, and I'll tell you what, it is like a marathon for them. The company that puts on the trade show is called Yarn Tree. They're a distributor. They do a fabulous job, but one time they figured out, I've forgotten how many exhibitors there are and how many hours there are that the show is open, that you only have like 7 or 8 minutes if you went into every exhibitor's room. So you can imagine how hard this is for them to get around, to see everything, to place orders, to take their stock, because it is a cash and carry show for the most part. And so they're coming in, they're looking at your models, they're saying, I'd like 3 of this and 6 of this, or whatever, 12. And then you're assembling their order, putting it in a bag, they're paying for it, and out the door they go. So, but we haven't had this show in person in 2 years. So we're all very excited to see one another again because it's been so long. Let's see. I want to mention one little fact that might be interesting to you. Designing for the Nashville show is actually kind of challenging, and it all has to do with the fact that it is occurring in March. And it's kind of an odd time of year, frankly, because we've gone by, obviously, by Christmas, we've gone by Valentine's Day. Easter actually is a pretty short season, I would say, and designs don't, there are Easter designs out there, but I don't think they sell as well as some of the other holidays. So as a designer, I'm always trying to figure out, what am I going to release at this time of year? So, and so you'll see what I chose to do. I try to think about babies, children, other events, and other topics that I could design for. So when I show you the designs, I'll try to explain why I chose those particular ones. So for this show, I feel like I'm missing something here. I'm just rattling on. I have 5 new designs, which are going to be in the small booklet form. They are not printed yet, actually. They're at the printer right now. This morning I had to run over there to check the proofs again. We've been proofing, I think, for weeks now, it feels like. So I went over today to check the color proofs and the charts. And 2 of the charts weren't up to my liking. I thought they needed some improvement. So they've gone back to the drawing board on those, trying to improve those charts. So I have 5 of the little booklets. I have 1 large booklet, which is going to be the Antique Sampler Collection, and then I have a limited edition kit. So let me tell you about the designs, and I'm not going to be able to show you the actual booklets themselves. I'm just going to be able to show you the mock-up that I get from the printer. So what shall I start with? Well, I'm wearing a bird today, necklace, and the reason for that is one of my designs is called Birds in the Round. And to get it over here, I'm going to have to move some things around. I set up another tiered tray today, and it's not quite, all right, say a little prayer for me as I move this over here, that I don't tip it over. So, as you know, the In the Round series are very, very popular. And someone had suggested to me that she thought Birds in the Round would be just darling. So I'm going to tilt this just a little bit so you can see the tray. And I don't know, I'm going to have to lift it up so you can see the bottom of the tray here. And I've just started filling this. I found a wonderful old linen towel that had birds on it, and I thought that would be perfect. I found a little pillow at Hobby Lobby with a little, here, I'll pick that up, with a little nest and birds on it. So let me show you what the design looks like and tell you about it. So this is Birds in the Round. And as always, I did a lot of research before I started this. I went through all of my old sampler books looking for birds that were used in antique samplers. So every one of the birds in this design came from an antique sampler. And as I've mentioned before, it's like putting a puzzle together. So I might start with several birds in, down at the bottom, and then I keep moving them around to get them balanced. So this design is stitched, let me tell you a little bit about it. It's stitched over 2 on a linen, let me double check the name of it. It's a 32 Belfast, and it's called Blue Whisper. And the fiber that I used, I have to look up because I can't remember. This one was stitched in Deep Blue Sea from Classic Colorworks. And then I also put this up here, stitched it in over 1 in a darker blue, and that color, sorry about this, is Blue Moon, and that also is from Classic Colorworks. And this was mounted on just a tiny little easel frame that I found at Hobby Lobby. And this one was stitched on an antique white 28 count over 1. So let's set that up here. And I have a funny story to tell you. So, I'm always trying to find products that I think would look nice with my designs. So one day I was walking through Hobby Lobby and I had just finished the birds in the round design, and I found this little bird cage. And I thought, oh, how can I use that? So this, I think, falls into the category of, Judy, I think this is a little wacky, but maybe some of you out there will like it. So you actually could fit the little birds in the round in the cage, and you could put a little nest down here and greenery. So you'll have to let me know what you think of this crazy idea and whether it has merit or not. And let's see if I have a product number for you. I'm looking for it right now. I do. It's 5589528. So if this appeals to you, let me know. Otherwise, I will set it aside and say, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. So that's one of the new designs, Birds in the Round. This is what the cover will look like. And on the inside, it shows also the design worked over one. So let me just take 1 second here and set this aside very, very carefully. And now I'm going to grab another design to show you. So I also, as you know, have done the French country designs for years. And someone, I wish I could remember who the person was, said to me, she said, you know, Judy, you did an elephant, a French country elephant years ago, and it looked like this, and I intended it to be as a design for a child's room. I actually did it on a striped fabric, so it almost looked like the elephant was in his little cage. And I'll show you what I did this year. I have two designs that could go with the elephant design as I kind of wave them around at you. So one of them, let me show you the model. It's much more fun than looking at the book. So the first one that I did is a French country giraffe. And once again, I used all the little motifs. And again, I make a list beforehand, before I start, of all the designs that I think I could fit in. Now, the giraffe actually doesn't have a lot of room for motifs, but I was able to fit in a little giraffe up here, a balloon, a circus tent, a heart, an elephant, G for giraffe, and a lion. So if you're interested in doing this as a baby gift, if you go to my website, I have an alphabet that's free on there, and you can use that. It's the same kind of font if you wanted to put a child's name and date below the little giraffe. So let's see here. In my pile, I have almost not lost it completely, but I'm getting close. So let me show you two models. I also stitched the little giraffe over one, and I love the fabric that I found. It did take a while because I chose the fabric that I used to stitch it on and the color before I went to look for the background fabric. I love the finishing on this. My light seems to be doing goofy things. It's finished as an easel. It was professionally finished. And you can see that she attached the little design with tiny little buttons with a little piece of floss tying each button to each corner. And as you know, sometimes it's hard when you stitch something to find just the right fabric that will set off the design. That's always a challenge. Sometimes I think it'd be easier to go get the fabric and then match your floss to the fabric you found. So this particular design, the over 2 model, was stitched on a 32 Lugana from Fabrics by Stephanie, and the color is Princess Buttercup. Isn't that the cutest name? And the over 1 model was stitched on a 28 count Belfast linen in cream. And then the floss colors that I used, sorry for the noise here. So I used Candy Yams from Classic Colorworks for the larger model. And then for the smaller model, I used Persimmon. And then that same fabric is on the back of the small model. So that's our little giraffe. And then we have one more design that goes along with that same theme. I'm trying to decide where to put everything here. So I also did a French country lion. And the lion, let me show you what he looks like. Looks like this. Love the background fabric. We have a wonderful quilt store or fabric store in town, so I take my models over there and I just wander around and look at hundreds of fabrics trying to find just the right one that will set off the design. Again, it was finished as an easel, and once again you can see that the buttons were attached in each corner to hold the design to the backing. And of course I always stitch them over one again, and this is the little lion stitched over one. This one was tricky to chart. I don't know why. I was having trouble getting his face and his head just the right shape, but I finally decided that I liked what I did, and I want to tell you about the motifs that fall into this. I keep kind of falling out of the screen here, don't I? So in this design, I always have a heart. There's a balloon, an elephant, a top hat, another balloon, a giraffe, a train, an animal train car, a crown because he's the king of the jungle, and a lion, and an umbrella. And the umbrella I thought of as a clown. That's one thing I've told you before. I always make a list ahead of time of all the motifs that I think would fit in the design. So let's look at, let's see, I'm going every which way, at the lion colors so I can tell you what I used. This is a gorgeous fabric. It is a 32 count linen, again, Fabrics by Stephanie, and the color is Snowdrifts. Just a gorgeous light blue. There are a lot of light blues on the market, so you could certainly substitute something. The over one model was stitched on Cashel, and it is, the color is called Ice Blue. And then the fibers that I used, Peoria Purple for the and it's a Weeks Dye Works fabric for the over 2 model. And I used Periwinkle, which is also a Weeks fiber for the over 1 model. So those are 2 more of the designs that I had finished for this show. And as I say, the booklet won't be this size, of course. It's, let's see, what is about, well, let's grab the booklet when it's finished is this size. This is just the rough proof that comes from the printer. So that is another one of the pieces that I'll be releasing. Then I also did something that I called, and these were really fun to do, Petite cottages. And these, there are 3 different designs in this set. So this is what these look like. Fun to stitch, easy to stitch. And what inspired these designs is that I have often worked in the past with a company in France called the Bee Company. And Delphine, the owner, makes just wonderful products. I saw her several years ago at market, and I've been using her products with my designs. So I import these little wooden pieces that the cottages are mounted on. Although you wouldn't have to use this, you could just mount it as a flat. But these are so beautifully made. If you look at them up close, you can see that they have laser cut little stars that run all the way along here, and then there's a larger opening at the top to tie a ribbon. And let's see, what can I tell you about actually the printout of this book? For some reason, it looks wonderful in person. I just saw it this morning, but the printout on my computer is not great. So let's see, what can I tell you about this? There's a lot of directions here. I need to open this up. So I'll just show you one of the designs. So these are stitched on a 32 count Belfast linen. They're over 2. With this particular design, it's probably, oh, I didn't do it with this one. I did it with another one. I'll show that to you in a minute. So it's a fairly, as I said, a fairly fast stitch. This I call the polka dot house. And I tried to make kind of unusual roof lines to make them all a little different. When I mounted them, I just made, someone gave me this wonderful idea. I set the wooden piece on my printer. Instead of going up to a window to make a template, I set it on my printer, made a copy of this shape, and then used that shape to cut out this so that I had a template before I mounted the little house. So it's fairly easy to do. And then I just made a twisted cording to go around the edges. So the house that I started to tell you about is this little one. What did I call this one? I gave them all names. This one is called flowered window boxes. And I don't know if you can see, but each little window box below the window actually has beads to simulate flowers. If you didn't want to do the beads, you could do French knots. Some people don't like doing French knots, but you could do either one. And I wouldn't worry about the bead colors that I used. I would just use beads that are in your collection. So that's the second little house. And then the third little house actually could almost be a patriotic house because it's red, white, and blue. And did I give this one a name? Yes, I said this was mansard roof, just to describe the shape of the roof at the top. So you can see what that looks like close up. So Petite Cottages is another design that's coming out. And I used all DMC for all of the colors of those little cottages. And the shop owners, when they come to market, I've ordered, I don't know, several hundred of these tags, and I will be selling those at the Nashville market. So if there's anything that you are wanting to order, I would encourage you to contact your local shop or a shop in your region or area to let them know that you're interested in purchasing any of the new patterns. What did I want to tell you about that? There was something else. Oh, I know. I will be shipping out my new booklets probably just before I leave for Nashville. And I ship them to the shops that are on what's called an automatic program. And what that means is that I have quite a number of shops who are very loyal to me. And they, ahead of time, say to me, I will take everything that you produce. So they tell me what their quantity is that they want to order each time. They often change that quantity because I'll be sending out a newsletter this afternoon and they'll be getting all pictures and descriptions of all of the things that I'm telling you about today. And so before I send out their automatic, some of the shops will write to me and say, Judy, I need, instead of 4 of this, I'd like 8 of this. And what they're doing is they're sending out newsletters and they're asking their customers, and then that gives them an idea of what they want to order. So these shops that are on what's called the automatic are automatically getting all of my designs. And I am very, very grateful to them for their business and their loyalty. So let's see, I've got 3 more things to show you. Let's see here. Where did I put it? Aha. Okay, so this one, I love doing pretty alphabet pieces. And when I talked about the difficulty of designing for the March show, you can see that I'm not doing holidays at all. I'm trying to focus on other themes. And so one of the themes that I've done the last couple years is I have designed a piece that uses an alphabet, and each time I try to make it a little different than the last year. So last year's alphabet design was the chintz alphabet, and this year I'm calling it an elegant alphabet. And this too was really fun to research. I used birds and swans and borders, etc., that came from many, many antique sources. And it was just fun to put together. let me look and give you an idea of the size of it and the fabric, etc. So I used a 32 count linen from Zweigert, and the color is called Winter Moon. It's a very, very soft color. I would say it has a little bit of a soft pale yellow hue to it, but I just loved it as a neutral. And for the fiber, I did something different, and I'm sure many of you have heard of this company already. There is a fiber company out of Italy called Rami's Creations, and her colors are just gorgeous. She will be at the Nashville market. I've used her hand-dyed floss before, and so I went into my collections of floss in my storage closet, and I found this, and it just really appealed to me. This particular color is called Tropical Sunset. And of course, if you don't have access to her fibers, I always give a DMC equivalent. So I'm hoping that actually, if you don't care for this color, that you'll choose something that you love that fits into your home. So an elegant alphabet looks like this. And if you came into my office, you'd say, oh my gosh, you have such a mess around you, but that's what you have to do. So the booklet is going to look like this. You can see what the cover will look like. And then on the inside, it will give you a complete picture of the whole piece. And that is all the information I can think of for that one. So I have two more things to talk to you about. I hope I'm holding your interest today. So the last booklet that I'll be releasing is something that is a follow-up to a collection that I did last year. And last year's booklet was called, let's see, I gotta think about it, Antique Red Sampler Collection. And I took 5 antique samplers that I had been collecting over the years, and I put them, you've seen this before, into one little package with the charts, and I did as much research as I could on the girls who stitched the designs. So this year I have a follow-up to that. I called it Antique Sampler Collection 2. Actually, not all of the samplers were red. 4 of them were. One of them is pink, so I thought, well, we'll just not use the word red in the title. And this will be packaged, as I said, in an envelope. I can show you, the back shows complete photos of all of the pieces. And I want to show you the models, which you've seen over the last few months, but I'll show you what's included. In some of the cases, I was able to get some wonderful information about the girls that stitched the samplers. But as you know, that is kind of hit or miss. Sometimes we have good luck with that, sometimes we don't. So the 5 samplers that are included in this collection, and in some cases, I stitched them again. So I have the original, and I have stitched it again as another model, but I didn't do that with all of them. 2 of the samplers, as you can see here, are horizontal, which I find quite interesting because it's a different shape than our usual square or rectangle. So I'm going to pick up the first one that is on top of the pile here. This is actually the reproduction I stitched. I'm going to show you the original also. I named the samplers after the girls who stitched them. So this is Edith Isherwood, and she stitched this in 1884. This is the one that actually in person, and you can probably see here, is a lovely combination of pinks and greens. And I found out quite a bit about Edith. She lived in Kilnhurst, and it says boarding school, but from the research I did, she came from a very large family. She was the oldest girl of 6. I think from what I've read, I don't know that she actually boarded at the school. I think she went to the school that was in the town where she lived, which was Kilnhurst. She stitched it when she was 11 years old. She went on to become a seamstress. I found that out in the census when she was 19. I love that fact that she loved sewing enough to go on and pursue it. She has wonderful alphabets in here, and I found out some things about her family that are quite interesting. So I want to show you also the Sorry about this. All right, so this is the original sampler that I purchased. And it was done on a fairly coarse linen. It was done in wool. When I reproduced the samplers, I reproduced them exactly as the young girl stitched them, so there are mistakes. There are always funny little things that happen, like the Y that goes down into the border. You know, letters that have to go, we can relate to this, right? Letters that have to go off to the side because she didn't have enough room for them. Actually, the last two letters of the word school were missing, but overall it was in fairly good condition considering, I'm sorry about the light there, I just noticed it, considering its age. So that's one of the samplers in the new collection. All right, let's see. Let me grab the one that's closest here. So let's see. So Edith was from England, and we have a nice variety of countries that are represented, sorry about that, in this collection. Helene Schnorr was actually from Germany. This piece, which I restitched, I'll show you the original, was stitched in 1874. Her alphabets, I think, are quite unique because I believe that they are of German origin, especially this alphabet right through here and this right through here. And some of this I have not been able to translate. So there's a set of letters right in through here. And I have been trying to relate those to her alphabet above that, and I've not been able to figure out quite what it says or what it is supposed to be indicating. So if anyone has any thoughts on that topic, I'd love to hear from you. So again, I loved some of her alphabets. I loved this lowercase one. Sometimes I think, you know, when we find an alphabet book or a sampler that we like, sometimes we might not stitch the sampler, but sometimes there might be an alphabet like this one in here, the lowercase one, or the uppercase that we could use in another project that we're stitching on. So I always think of them as wonderful resources for the projects that you're working on. So let me show you the original sampler that I purchased years ago. Actually, I don't even remember, it's been so long where I purchased this. So this was the original, oh, my lights are terrible, aren't they? Sampler that was stitched on a very tightly woven linen. Actually, her work was quite good, quite neat, both on the back and on the front. So I don't know the age, how old she was when she stitched this, and I didn't find out a lot about Helene and her life, but I do think this has great appeal to it. So that's the second one. The third one, all right, let me reach for this. You can see that things are precarious here. We've talked about quite a bit because this is a sampler that I bought last summer at a local antique show. This was probably my favorite sampler to research because we discovered, with the help of a lot of my followers and viewers, that Monica Marshall was actually born in Cornwall, and this is a city in Cornwall. We found the home where she lived, which was a manor house. It wasn't a castle, but it certainly was a lovely old home. And we found out quite a bit, I found out quite a bit about her whole life. Her parents, her grandparents, her children. She married a man by the name of Valentine Gould MacArthur, and they were married on Valentine's Day. So I think that's kind of a neat fact about Monica. So this was a really fun one. I did not restitch this. I loved the original model. I also, let's see, if you can see the frame, which I think I've shown before, having a hard time getting it close enough. It has a stencil look to it. It's just beautiful. How it came here to the US, I'm going to put that down so it doesn't bug you to death. We don't know, because as far as I can tell, her whole family stayed in Cornwall. But obviously, maybe perhaps an antique dealer bought it there and brought it to the U.S. When we reframed it, I actually had my framer repair the frame because there were some chips in it. And when he opened the frame, we found a photo in the back. We don't think it relates to the original girl who stitched it because it was of a clapboard house, which looked very New Englandish. But so it's a mystery, two mysteries. One is, how did it get to the US? And secondly, how did that picture happen to be in the back of this? So perhaps it was reframed once it arrived in the United States. So let me set this one down. And I haven't shown you yet, but maybe I did. Yes, I did show you what the cover of that booklet looks like. So we have two more samplers to talk about today that are in that collection. Sorry, I hit the chair with my model. So this one was very, very interesting, and I loved this one because of the shape and the year that it was stitched. Oh boy. You can see I'm having a great deal of trouble today. It's very, very sunny here, which is great, but between my ring light and the window lights, it's going to be hard to show you what this looks like. Anyhow, let me tell you about it. So it was stitched in 1805 by a little girl named Olive Rowley. She was, let's see, she gives her age. She was 14 years old. This actually came from the United States, from New York. That's where she and her family lived. What I discovered when I did the research on Olive is that, and she has a wonderful little sentence on here. So it says, Olive Rowley wrought this in the 14th year of her age, November the 7th, 1805. When this you see, remember me, though many miles we distant be. And as you can tell from the linen, if I try to get this up close, you know, obviously it was hand spun. It really shows its age. She, I discovered that her father, which was so sad, she was one of, I want to say 7 or 8 children. I'll have to look back at my research on her. Died at 40 years of age at the end of November in 1805. When he was 40 years old. So that was very, 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 very sad. But I did find his last will and testament, and I wrote about that in the booklet, and that was so interesting too, because he writes about leaving his estate to his beloved wife, his 2 sons, and his daughters. So it's just, doing the research is just so much fun. And this one, I also decided that I was going to restitch. And I restitched it in a red. I've forgotten, it's in the booklet what fabric I chose to stitch it on, but I love the way it turned out. It was just a lovely one to stitch. Her capital letters are not actually, at first I thought they were an eyelet stitch. They're actually 4 cross stitches that make up that square, to make up the larger form of that letter. So, and she had some funny things too, little borders that kind of fell off the side there. So that was really fun to stitch. So my last one, things are looking kind of bare over here, I'm not even going to lift it up because it is very heavy and very bulky. But it is, maybe I should try to get it closer. Oh, we'll just talk about it. So I'm calling this the Ida Padowan sampler. It is from Italy, and I love this sampler. I love the shape of it. I love the fact it was stitched on a tea towel. So if you study it closely, up in this corner, there's a little loop where the tea towel hung. And the alphabets on this are absolutely gorgeous, especially the script alphabet right here, and then this set of capital letters. The interesting thing about this particular piece is that with the help of my friend Rami in Italy, she helped me translate this. So Classe Terza means that she was in her third year, which would have made her about, this is correct, if I understand it correctly, about 8 years old. Her name, Padowan, is a very common Italian name. Her first name was Ida. She stitched it anno 1894. And Chioggia, and again, since I don't speak Italian, I probably murdered that pronunciation also. My family will get quite a kick out of this, is actually a little town outside of Venice, Italy. And I did some research on the town and what it was like. I did not find out anything about Ida and her family, but that doesn't take away from the beauty of that sampler. So that really is kind of the end of my new releases, and I hope you're excited about them. I will admit that I get nervous. I don't care how long I've been doing this about, I wake up and think, will I sell these? How will I do? It's just me. I worry about it every time, and then I do just fine. So keep your fingers crossed for me. I need all the luck I can get. A couple things. If you need to contact me, email is the best way to do it, judy@jbwdesigns.com. I do have a website. It's jbwdesigns.com. I do have a shop on the website. However, I'm trying to be very loyal to my needlework shops, independently owned needlework shops. I only put the older patterns on the website, but if there's anything that you're interested in, you're welcome to check those out. I have a newsletter that is going out to not only to my shops this week, but I also send out a newsletter to my retail customers. And I believe you can sign up for that on the website. I forgot to check that out ahead of time. So if that's not the case, we'll try to fix that in the near future. So what am I working on now? Believe it or not, since I've finished stitching all the models for Nashville, I'm actually already stitching models for the next set of releases in June. And this next 10 days or so before we leave is going to be really hectic because I have to assemble. Oh, I forgot to show you one more thing. Oh, sorry, this is lasting too long. All right, I forgot. I have a limited edition kit. How could I not see this? All right. Hold on, I hope you have your stitching out. So I bought a sampler, oh gosh, I've forgotten when, probably 2 years ago. It's a very, very simple piece. Oh boy. So I'm gonna hold it up like this. You can see that it was stitched by Ada Roper in 1894. That seems to be a popular year for stitching. It was stitched on a very, very coarse linen. And I thought it was charming because it was just so simple. So I decided, I had an idea one day that I wanted to do, I usually try to do a kit for market, that wouldn't it be cute to stitch Ada's sampler and make it into a hornbook. So this is what I'm going to be releasing as a kit. And in the kit, you'll get the wooden hornbook, which is from a company called Stitch, etc. And you can find them on Facebook. They make all kinds of wonderful wood products. And Kim and her daughter Ashley were the ones that we worked together to come up with the right color and the shape, etc. for this tiny little sampler. It's stitched on a 32 count linen, flax linen, over 1 with 1 ply of 498. So in the kit, I'm putting the linen, the floss, which is enough to do not only the stitching, but the cording around the outside edge, the hornbook, the complete instructions on how to finish. I am also including the ribbon. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing. That is what's going in the kit. So if that's something that you're interested in, again, please contact your shops. That is going to be a limited edition piece. So we'll see, how it sells and how many more I'll be able to manufacture. So this week I'm assembling the kits, which I have all the parts and pieces. I just need to put them together. I need to assemble the antique sampler book, which is this booklet, which I just talked about, and I need to pack for the show. So there is no rest for the weary. I need help. Wish I had more helpers. Anyhow, I it's going to be a while before I do my next video, and that's because after market, my husband and I take a little break for a while, which I probably need, but I will be back, I promise you, to do more videos. I do want to give out some prizes this week to people who made comments in the last video. So just email me if you hear your name being called, and choose one of the designs from my collection, anything that from the last years that appeals to you. So my winners this week are D. Johnson, Dreskin Daniela, and Chais, C-H-A-I-S, Stampin' World. So I look forward to hearing from you ladies and hearing what you'd like me to send. So thank you so much for watching. I just think you're all just grand. And I wish you happy stitching days in the weeks and time ahead until I see you again. Thanks. Bye.